Hello, this is Creative Coding from CreativeCodingStudios.com here with a tutorial in Autodesk Maya. What we're going to be doing today is learning the basics of Autodesk Maya. Now, let's get started first with our movement. Now you see this main panel right here? This is basically what's called your perspective view. You're able to move around in it, look, make changes, anything like that. This is basically where you are editing or creating your 3D model. If you hold down Alt and click, you can rotate that panel. Now there are no models inside, but we have this little grid. This grid can be turned on and off, but it's just used as a reference, and it's just very useful for when you start modeling. Alt right click zooms in and out, but that can also be done with the middle roller thing, whatever it's called, middle mouse button. Alt middle mouse button is pan. Okay. To make something. Up here is a bunch of different little panels. These access different tools, stuff that will help you create an object. Go over to polygons. This is basically your main place with all the tools that you will need to create something, and click on sphere, this very first one. Click and drag on the grid to draw it. This will create a sphere in wireframe mode. To get this little panel over here that will explain more about your current object, go to Display, Heads Up Display, or HUD, Polygon Count. This is basically telling us about our mesh right here, how many vertices, edges, faces, tris, and UVs it has. Vertices are basically where each of these faces or lines meet, like right here. Edges are each of these edges or lines. Faces are each of these 4 lines that will make up a face, like a box. Now a sphere is actually made up of a bunch of little boxes that end up looking round. To get out of what's called wireframe mode, where we look at it as if it were made of wires, you just press 6 or click up here. Click out to unselect it. When something is selected, it will turn green with wireframe. To edit our Polysphere 1, we go into the Polysphere 1 attributes editor, which is over here. We can change some stuff like radius, subdivision axis, subdivision height. What these do is take away our vertices, or what we like to call subdivisions. This is very useful because lots of engines need less polys like this, but this will also result in less roundness, and it will look more pokey, as I like to call it. It will look more rough. Usually you play around with your current object and see what fits. Like, that would be pretty good for in-game. Now to change stuff or make edits, right now you are in mouse mode, where basically all you can do is click around. This mode is usually these two are usually never used, but there are these 3 important ones right here. This one is called the Move tool. Basically what it does is it gives you this axis thing, like you see down here, that you use to move around your object. It will only move around the object that you select. You can also control select other objects. Now there is the y-axis, the z-axis, and the x-axis. Normally 2D is just X and Y, which is Y is up and down, X is left and right. But with the Z axis, you sort of get a back and forth movement. That way you can move in 3D space. Now, to move around, all you have to do is click one of the axes and move using that. You can click in the middle and move it like this. Also, when you sort of get to a view like this, where one of the axes disappear, like you see how you can't see that one blue one, which is the Z axis. When you click it, it will now only move on the X and Y axis. Once the Z reappears, it will do it on all axes. Same goes for these other sides. In order to change your view, in case we want to, say, look at the top, press space. This will show up 4 panels. Some people like to edit in all 4 panels, but in my opinion, it is pretty hard to do. So you put your mouse over whichever panel you want. Each of them are marked at the bottom. So I want to go to the top, I hover my mouse over this panel and press space again. Once you get used to it, you can do it pretty fast. As you can see, we cannot see the Y-axis, so then when we move, we will only be moving on the Z and the X-axis. You can also not Alt and left click, that will not work. You can only pan and zoom. Now, selecting stuff other than the object. When you hold right click, you can drag around and select stuff, or do different stuff. An edge would be selecting these little lines. Click on it. See, with the movement tool, we can move it in and out just like that. Object mode is what we were just in. UV mode is almost never used. Multi is pretty hard. Face is these faces. Vertex face is never used, and vertex, which are these little dots where the edges meet. Now, time for rotation. Rotation basically rotates your object. When you click not on an axis, you will rotate it on all axes. But when you click on like this red line, it will only rotate on that axis. Just like that. You can also rotate different stuff that you have selected to produce different little effects. Next is the scale tool. This makes things smaller and larger. Of course, like I said before, you can do it with objects, and like I said, when one axis is not apparent, it will only apply it to those 2 axes. Like I said, you can apply it to stuff like faces and stuff like that. This one is called the universal tool, actually, I believe. And what it does is it shows all tools at once, and it is rather useful, although I do not use it a lot. Actually, sometimes I do use it for animating, but it's pretty meh. Now, just some quick keyboards commands. F will focus on your object. It will set your pivot point for your camera around the object, making it easy to select things. Control Z will undo. Click it multiple times to undo that object. Shift Z will redo. And to save your object, you go Save Scene, name your file, and the type can be any type that you have installed. Usually it comes with Maya ASCII and Maya binary. That is pretty much all. Or wait a second, there's one more thing I have to show you. You can do these multiple things, each have multiple shapes, but one quick little thing, which is very important, is called the extrude. It is this thing right here. You do not click it because first you have to select a face. See how we have this box? Say I want to change it and make like an L or something. Actually, we would do it down here. Click on the extrude thing, and this new weird tool will pop up on your object. Drag down, and it extrudes your object. You can do it again on this extrude. Move it that way. Then we have an L-shaped object. Also, we can select our object, go into Mesh, under Polygons menu, Smooth. This will smooth it, and it makes it look rather nice, although it is not recommended for in-game, because it increases the faces, and will eventually make your item useless. There's also a bunch of different tools here. You'll have to just play around to figure out what each one does. That is all. Thanks for watching. This is Creative Coding from CreativeCodingStudios.com. Remember to check out the website. It's going along quite nicely, and make some new tutorials later.